Got it. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our ordinary meeting of the Queenscliff Borough Council for Wednesday, the 25th of February 2026. This meeting is held on the traditional lands of the Wadawurrung, and we wish to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to all members of our community. I'd just like to note some changes for tonight's meeting. We're projecting up on this screen to sort of to show the meeting's agenda. So I just hope that to encourage people to follow the meeting, and it just makes it a bit easier for everyone, we hope, and it's an improvement of the way we do meetings. Thank you. I now formally declare the meeting open, and I confirm item 2 is present and apologies. I confirm the attendance and apologies is all councillors are here, and the CEO and all officers. And we have a quorum, thank you. Item 3, disclosures and conflict of interest. Councillors, are there any conflicts of interest to declare under Section 130 of the Local Government Act of 2020? Excuse me.
I can fill the void while you sneeze, Mayor. I wish to declare a conflict at confidential item 16.1, community grants and event sponsorship advisory group appointments, due to holding a personal relationship with one of the recommended members, and I will absent myself for this item.
Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Item 4, leave of absence of council. There's none. So,
through you, Mayor, could I foreshadow urgent business and seek leave to introduce an item of urgent business into tonight's agenda?
And what item might that be?
Well, I think we'll call it 4A to make it less confusing. Otherwise, we have to change all the numbers. So we'll call it 4A. That business concerns the federal government's announcement on the 4th of February regarding the Department of Defence divestment of assets outlined in the audit report titled Delivering the Future Estate.
If that's this matter of urgent business, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest regarding my position of a board member of the Museum of the Fort. So I'll just excuse myself on this vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, as part of that audit report, the divestment of Fort Queenscliff and a partial divestment of Swan Island were part of the announcement. So under our governance rules, 1, B and C, I move that this matter is included as urgent business in this evening's agenda. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. I suggest that, as we said, it becomes 4A, so that's now. And just to give you a bit of background to the motion, on the 4th of February 2026, a federal government media release announced that the Defence estate audit conducted in 2023 had identified 68 defence sites across Australia for divestment. 18 of those sites are in Victoria. Here in the borough of Queenscliff, 2 sites were identified. Fort Queenscliff was listed for divestment and Swan Island for partial divestment. This announcement has caused community concern regarding the process of this divestment and what it means for the future. Many in the borough have sought a council position on the sale of Fort Queenscliff and the partial sale of Swan Island. Council is aware of the wide range of options and views being discussed. The paper I'm tabling tonight outlines Council's current considerations and principles. This will be circulated and promoted widely as part of a community engagement and feedback process that will inform Council's ultimate advocacy position to both federal and state governments on this divestment. Broadly, Council seeks to protect the heritage, history and identity of the two sites. Currently, Council will promote future public access and community use and the avoidance of exclusivity to the sites. The need for environmental and coastal protection of the two sites will be stipulated. The planning and governance controls that exist will be emphasised and ongoing council and community oversight will be sought. Council will request consideration of future economic and social benefits to the community. Council would like to be clear, it has no formal view on the divestment, but does wish to protect, enhance and retain community benefit and access to these facilities in whatever form that may result as a result of the federal government's decision. Council also wishes to make it clear there's no capacity for the ratepayers of the Borough of Queenscliff to purchase or have a financial stake in either of these federal government defence properties now or in the foreseeable future. This is clearly a role for federal and potentially state governments. We do, however, have a lead advocacy role to promote engagement, hear from our community and ultimately have a position to advocate to governments. Therefore, I move that Council endorse the attached councillor discussion paper, Key Matters. Sorry, it's going to be slightly different from what's up there. Key Matters to retain, protect and secure community benefit. Promote widely this paper across our community. Receive a report on an appropriate community engagement approach to ensure all views can be fed into Council's approach. Receive a further report following that engagement to form an advocacy approach to federal government defence and finance portfolios. Write to Richard Marles, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Defence, and Katie Gallagher, Minister for Finance, enclosing this Key Matters paper and advising them of our community engagement process, and seek clarity from the Ministers for Defence and Finance about how communities can be a part of the process outlined in the sheet for Victoria titled Delivering the Future Estate, which says, and I quote, "Community engagement will inform decisions on preserving and enhancing heritage presentation and public access." Do I have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Monaghan. Does anybody wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Tolhurst.
Thank you, Councillor Rule. Thank you for bringing this. I'm not sure if that's working, but thank you for bringing this urgent business. I think it is really important that, as you say, Council forms a position on supporting the community to advocate and has done so, noting that we also only found out this news around 22 days ago, so have worked hard in the background to come to this position, and I hope that the engagement is a really comprehensive one, and I'm grateful that you've stipulated some parameters for that, including the borough is not and will not be in a position to purchase, but deeply values the different perspectives we'll hear and will work to collate those in a way that's meaningful to advocacy going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Does anybody else wish to speak to the motion? Just in my right of reply or summary, I just want us all to remember that this is not just a property transaction. It's the transfer of a place of national significance, and it's our role, I believe, to ensure that whatever future ownership looks like, the fort and the islands, heritage, public value and community benefit are protected in perpetuity. All those in favour of the motion? Thank you. Passed unanimously.
Thank you. I just return to the chair. We're up to item 5. Yes, thank you. Item 5 is public question time. It's 5.1, public question status update. At the ordinary meeting of Council on the 28th of January 2026, one public question was taken on notice. Please refer to adjunct 5.1 for the details. No public questions are outstanding. We have a recommendation that the public question status be provided to adjunct 5.1 be noted. Do I seek a mover?
I'm not sure if this is working. No, we're trying. They're not working. They're not working. They're not working. Oh, okay.
All right, so I'll just speak up louder then. Thank you. All right, that's okay. So I'll just repeat myself. So we're up to item 5, public question time. 5.1, public question status update. At the ordinary meeting of Council on the 28th of January 2026, one public question was taken on notice. Please refer to adjunct 5.1 for the details. No public questions are outstanding. We have a recommendation that the public question status be, as provided in adjunct 5.1 be noted. I seek a mover.
Seconded.
Yes? No. I see. Second. Thank you. All those in favour? Yes. All those against? No. Unanimous. Thank you. Public question 5.2, public questions. Public questions time is conducted in accordance with the Council's governance rules. I will now call registered speakers in order received. So, first public question is from Jeremy Kirkwood. Is Jeremy here?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Would you like to come and read your question, or would you like me to read it for you?
I'm happy for you to read it. I'm happy to read it, but I don't actually have it with me.
Sure. All right then.
Is it printed up there?
We printed it.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there any work planned or budget allocated for the management of the overgrown and weed-riddled reserve along the Esplanade for this financial year or next?
A response from the Manager of Infrastructure and Environment, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. Thank you for your question, Jeremy. Council allocates resources for weeding activity to occur typically twice annually within the foreshore land along the Esplanade. The last weeding activity in this area was in September 2025, and a further visit is planned in coming months.
Public questions number 2. I've got Keith Stiles. Keith's not here, I see. So I'll read out his question. So for the Queenscliff Music Festival 2025, a number of perceived unsafe and non-compliant activities with the potential to cause serious injury and disruption to traffic on the B110 Bellarine Highway were observed and documented by local community members. Oh, okay. I'll just, you want me to frame it or just read the question? Oh, would you like me to read the preamble, or is it up?
No. Okay. No.
Oh, I'll just read the question, okay. Can you please advise which authority approved the traffic management plan? What unusual activities were specified noted on the application? And is the approved plan available for community review? And the response from the Manager of Infrastructure and Environment.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors again. Sorry, I should have stayed up here. Thank you for the question, Keith. The traffic management company engaged by the festival are responsible for the development of the traffic management plan. The traffic management company is required to apply to the Department of Transport for a memorandum of agreement to permit the proposed traffic management plan activities within Wharf Street.
Yeah, which one?
So maybe just
Thank you.
inform David that
Yes.
we've answered the bulk of the question, but we can answer the governance.
All right. But which would I read the question? Because it's all, what is this question?
Because he's going to ask you to read it.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah.
David, would you like to unread your... Okay. So where do I read it from?
So just that one.
Okay,
that one.
okay. So your question tonight's on the 11th of February 2026, Council met with regarding the Fort Queenscliff advocacy after apparently not being involved in any prior consultation and notification of sales of defence land, including Swan Island. Did Council make any formal decisions or recommendations at this meeting and propose any actions, including advancing any possible EOIs for the site? So a response from the CEO, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the question, David. So you've heard a lot from Council tonight in the urgent business, but just to cover the governance side of things. So what you're referring on the 11th of February, it's turned on. It's working on live streaming. It's just not working in this room. Yep. So Council did meet for an assembly or a briefing on the 11th of February, and that was a few days, like a week after it was announced. So basically the paper that went to Council tonight was the start of a discussion paper on what Council's role would be. There were no decisions made at that assembly, which is right. There are no decisions made at Council assemblies, and the ultimate result of all of that and the work that the Council have done in the last 2 to 3 weeks is what was presented tonight. So there were no decisions made at that, but we were the same as everyone else. Those 2 fact sheets were what we actually started discussing at that 11th of February assembly.
Yep. Yes.
Of course, we'd be disappointed if you didn't.
I'm not sure whether the Mayor should be in here at the moment discussing a conflict of interest, potentially, but anyway, we did point out part of the question is that an options analysis is central to part of any bureaucratic decision making, and I think that's part of the essential part of the process, and certainly a detailed EES on the 2 sites should be undertaken. And we've been urging that before any decisions, and we appreciate the fact that Council cannot form an opinion without detailed background information, and I think that's perhaps tonight would be a great starting point to involve a discussion. The QCA has endeavoured to invite Libby Coker and Richard Miles down to our meeting and didn't get a reply or a response to that, so I think opening up the discussion would be a positive, and I think if tonight's urgent business helps forge a particular position, I think we'd appreciate that from the community. So thank you.
So it sounded like a statement rather than a
question.
But
it was just to get onto the record that we did ask that an options analysis, an economic impact statement, a detailed EES be stated, really, because I don't think that was covered in the question. Thank you.
And can I just note that I think the question therefore should read any possible EESs rather than EOIs, shouldn't it? I don't think you meant expressions of interest. I think you meant environmental effect statements. Or did you?
No, in the 11th of February meeting, did Council discuss any, I suppose, any EOIs in terms of it, which I presume you never got to that stage? No.
Might as well stay up there, David. So public question number 4. It's just regarding the Ocean View kiosk EOI of 140 Hesse Street. I understand that DECA guidelines let... sorry, just find your question. Sorry, here it is. For the benefit of transparency, can it be determined who in Council sits as the Committee of Management for this site, and when it formally sat to make a decision or recommendation to put out EOIs for the kiosk, or reasons for doing so? The CEO.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks again for the question, David. So Council is the Committee of Management. Council meaning the body corporate, so the 5 councillors are the Committee of Management. The processes for meetings and determining things is set by our governance rules and our policies. So we have, as most people are aware, we have assemblies or briefings and council meetings. So an assembly was held to brief council on the EOI process, of which then authorised us to continue with that. The next decision-making process will be at the council meeting. So once EOIs are received, they'll come back, there'll be a determination, there'll be an assessment, and then council will ultimately decide on the successful tenderer for the process. The other bit of the question was why did we go out? We're required to, under DECA's land lease rules, to go out at the end of a lease expression of interest, and we've certainly encouraged the current and others to put in an expression of interest. Thank you.
Is it? Question, David? Yes. Please.
Yes, okay. Well, the question relates to committees of management and whether council does actually separate its function, apart from council briefing, whether it separates its function as a committee of management and it knows it's sitting as a committee of management.
No, it doesn't separate. So council as a committee management comes under council's governance rules, and it determines it through its normal governance processes and policies.
Yep. And are minutes kept and available for the public to...
Not of briefings, no, just of council meetings.
Yep. So DECA doesn't know the minutes and no financial...
One question.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
No, they don't.
Thank you.
They only know the outcome.
So item 6, confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. So item 6.1, ordinary council meetings of 28th of January 2026. I have a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting on the 28th of January 2026 be, as distributed, be confirmed as accurate record. I seek a mover. Yep. Councillor Monaghan, I seek a seconder. Councillor Cameron. All those in favour? So it's unanimous. Thank you. 6.2, ordinary council... Sorry?
No, it's all right,
Sorry. So just dry mouth, sorry. 6.2, ordinary council meeting 28th of January 2026, the confidential minutes. A recommendation that the confidential minutes of the ordinary council meeting on the 28th of January 2026 as distributed be confirmed as an accurate record. Is there a mover? Yep. Councillor Monaghan, is there a seconder? Yep. Councillor Cameron. All those in favour? Yep. Unanimous. Thank you. Item 6.3, special meeting of council on the 11th of February 2026. Recommendation that the minutes of the special meeting of council on the 11th of February 2026 as distributed be confirmed as accurate record. I seek a mover. Councillor Tolhurst, is there a seconder? Councillor Cameron. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. 6.4, the special meeting of council on the 11th of February council confidential minutes. Recommendation that there's a recommendation that the confidential minutes of the special meeting of council on the 11th of February 2026 as distributed be confirmed and as accurate record. Do I have a mover? Yeah. Councillor Rule, do I have a seconder? Yeah. Councillor Monaghan, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 7, a record of informal meetings of councillors. There's a recommendation that the record of informal meetings of councillors as presented in adjunct to item 7 be noted. So is there a mover? Yep. Councillor Monaghan, seconder. Councillor Tolhurst, all those in favour? Yep. Unanimous, thank you. There's a notice of, item 8, notice of motion. 8.1, notice of motion status update. An update of notice of motion number 2026/602 is provided in adjunct item 8.1 to this agenda. No notices of motion are outstanding. The recommendation that this motion of status update be noted. Do I have a mover? Yes. Councillor Rule. Seconder, Councillor Cameron. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. We got item 8.2, notice of motion 2026/603, Ballara Deakin Estate. I seek a mover for the motion. You got a motion? Yep.
Yes. I, Councillor Rule, move the following motion, that council makes a contingent financial commitment to the purchase of the property known as Ballara for the amount of $300,000 as previously determined by council on the 28th of February 2024. 2, that the allocated amount will not be transferred until council is satisfied that all legal requirements for a trust or other appropriate entity are in place. This will include confirmation of Deakin University's ongoing involvement with Ballara. 3, funding will not be provided towards the purchase, trust or other appropriate entity if other financial contributions are not forthcoming, allowing for the purchase of the property. And 4, authorise the CEO to execute the deed subject to receiving legal advice ensuring protections are in place for the council and its financial commitment.
So, is there one more item? Can you lift?
Yeah, I've added.
Unfortunately, that will happen, is that there are things that get changed as things go along. So this is Councillor Rule's notice of motion, and it may be continued for various reasons.
When we get really sophisticated, we'll change them as they do at other councils.
Maybe, Mayor, if I may, just for the benefit of anyone who's following along online, what you're seeing on the screen is the original notice of motion or recommendation for each of the items. They may well be changed during the course of the meeting, as there were minor amendments to councillor rules tonight. They won't be shown on the screen.
Thank you, CEO. So, Councillor, will you move this motion? Yeah?
Yeah.
Do I have a seconder for this? Councillor Cameron. I invite the mover to speak.
Not at the moment.
So, seconder. So if there's no one to oppose. Yes?
I'd like to speak against the motion.
Okay.
I'd like to say up front that I think the loss of Ballara, its removal, fragmentation or subdivision would be a tragedy for its historical values, environmental values and its utter uniqueness in the township of Point Lonsdale. But in the 2 years since the motion was first passed to commit $300,000 to preservation efforts, I'm no more clear on how the money, which is ratepayer money, will achieve preservation and public access. These were key principles in the discussions about why preservation matters and put forward in the case for funding Ballara, but the question is, what does the council get for this significant investment? Council must consider value for money and risk around investment whenever and wherever it occurs. In this decision, am considering Council's financial sustainability and our modest income that must be managed prudently. I support the intent, I do, and appreciate the significant efforts that the community have gone to in the Save Ballara campaign, but I need assurance that our money will contribute to genuine public access, that public access is legally enforceable principle of the trust, and that the rich ecology and environmental values of the site will be preserved, that we get something for our investment. The contribution doesn't provide any ownership or management rights of the land, and I don't see that that was really the intention ever, but while the motion requires all legal requirements for a trust or appropriate entity to be in place, there is no confirmation yet on how the trust will run or if council is invited to have an ongoing role in its governing body. The amount too is significant for our small municipality. It is more than our total annual contribution to a library service. It's more than we spent in total on operating projects in our last budget, and it's close to double the projected year-end recurring underlying surplus for this financial year. I believe council has a role to play in protecting and celebrating local heritage. I stand by that commitment, one we made unanimously in our council plan. The The planning scheme, though, provides excellent protections for the site. It's not a flawless document, but it has vegetation protection overlays, heritage overlays, design and development overlays. This site is on the Victorian Heritage Register, and Heritage Victoria manage all permits and buildings and works to the land. The Bellarine Peninsula Statement of Planning Policy, which is totally having its day in the sun at the moment, also adds weight to these elements, and these controls applying to the land and to any owner it may have suggest that significant land clearing development or large-scale subdivision would be difficult to justify. Council has done some great advocacy on this matter to date. I really commend that, and I think we can do more in this space at little or no cost to council and ratepayers. And my hope is that at the auction on Saturday, there is an outcome that's achieved to the benefit of community. I hope that Ballara's beauty is maintained, that public access becomes a central feature of the future ownership, and that the environment is undisturbed. It's such rare open space in Point Lonsdale. But this basic question of value for money and council's role in significant financial expenditure has not been satisfied for me, so I no longer support this motion.
Was it taking up your right as
yes.
a right reply?
Thank you. I would just like to emphasise that Ballara Resting Place is a significant brick in the structure of our village at Point Lonsdale and of the whole of the borough of Queenscliff. To lose something that was constructed in 1907 and has such historic significance, not just to our community but to the nation, because somebody else comes along to buy it, and despite Councillor Tolhurst hoping that those overlays, etc., can hold it in good stead, I fear that the constantly changing planning schemes that we're being notified of weekly can at any time overturn some of those so-called protections. This property is a property of national, cultural and environmental significance, 1.69 hectares. I wouldn't want to see it subdivided, and I wouldn't want to see the character of our village altered as a result of that potential subdivision. Combined with Arilpa, the neighbouring property, it provides the lungs of Point Lonsdale, the very thing that much of our council plan is devoted to, the protection and enhancement and mitigation of environment and biodiversity. Look at the flora and fauna that can be found on Ballara and on Arilpa. And that's not taking into account the War Memorial on the corner of Glen News and Kirk Road, a memorial that was donated by the family who for 117 years have had that property. I think the protection of the site, the house and ultimately the collection of historic chattels and nationally significant papers and photographs is of paramount importance to the heritage and everything that we have talked about in our council plan of the borough of Queenscliff. And I think that $300,000 is a small price to pay rather than just hoping that it's looked after.
That's it. Councillor Cameron, I'd like to say something because I was one of the only other councillors that actually was here from the past council that passed the original motion, and why we settled on 300,000. That it gave us councillors, the council, a seat at the table. We've been offered, when they set up the trust, the board, a seat at the board. And I think that's and that will give us, a fair save, giving us our community is such a small community, a seat at the table to continue to entrust the future of this national asset, of a past Prime Minister of Australia, and on historical grounds, but also with the acreage set in the heart of Point Lonsdale. I was at 1.6. Well, I was at 1.68 or 9, nearly close to 1.7 hectares of like original bushland in the area that's also, you know, bordering on Arupa. It's very important that we have, you know, we are here to preserve, and, you know, like, and the money's there to be as a joint crowdfunding, which is that the, you know, community of settling on, you know, there's lots of people. There's, I think the other day that, you know, there was one person that I heard that was about $1 million donated into the fund. It was was very generous to, you know, to donate to have this, to this cause, and I think that, you know, that's the least that we can do as a community to show our support for this property and our history. Thank you. I'll put this to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? Yeah, thank you. Call for a division, yes? All those in favour? All those against? Sorry, Councillor Rule, Councillor Cameron, Councillor Grigor are in favour. Those against? Councillor Monaghan and Councillor Tolhurst. Thank you. Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay. Up to item 9, petitions and joint letters. There's none received, so I'll move to the next item. Thank you. Oh. So, oops. Yep, thank you. We're up to item 10, functions attended. Recommendation that the functions attended report be received. Do I seek a mover? Yes. So, Councillor Rule, seconder. Councillor Tolhurst. All those in favour? Thank you. The Chief Executive report. Thank you. We've got a recommendation that the Council receives the CEO's report for February 2026. I seek a mover. Yes. Councillor Rule. Councillor seconder. Councillor Tolhurst. Yes?
Sorry. Yeah, go on. Thanks, Mayor. Sorry, Councillor Rule. To the CEO or anyone equipped to answer it, it's great to see the work on those courtyard sessions, part of the Hesse Street activations, a highly engaging initiative that clearly filled the town with music and joy, and I'm thrilled its continuation is being explored. Can you just let us know how feedback is being, or to the CEO, obtained to determine the success of this trial now in its second year?
I'll take it.
Yes, yep. CEO, could you please?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Tolhurst, and through you, Mayor. So there'll be a couple of things that the team are doing, Councillor Tolhurst and everyone. Number one is anecdotal evidence, so we've got photos, etc., from the day. We've also got comments that have been made in the Visitor Information Centre book. And then the third one that we can do, and I can take responsibility for this, but I'll go to the team. We are doing some engagement with the traders, particularly on the Rodders weekend and how it all worked for them. I'm sure we'll be able to put something in here if there's any feedback on the Christmas and particularly the activation over the summer period.
And if I could just speak to the motion. Thank you, CEO, for your report, and congratulations to all those who made the courtyard sessions such a success. Totally agree with Councillor Tolhurst. They brought such a vibrancy and feel to the main street, and I've certainly sent in my photos of grandchildren dancing away to the music, and the traders absolutely loved it. While I'm on events that were held, I'd like to add my congratulations to the event that the board riders held on the 7th of February, the Lighthouse Party, and particular congratulations to Max Lazarus for the brilliant way in which he executed that evening. It was a huge success, and it was, I believe, from two of our traders, one, Pasquinis, who've been there for years, who said that that weekend provided them the best weekend on their books. One of them told me that she made 600 iced coffees over the weekend. So congratulations to them. I move the motion, as I said.
Seconded.
Yep.
So, all those in favour to accept? Thank you. Unanimous. Item 12, we got building the borough. So it's 12.1 planning permit activity report. Do we have any questions regarding the planning activity report to the officer?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. My question relates to a recently gazetted and in effect, scheme change, VC 245, which is recognised or acknowledged down the base of the planning permit update for the month. The change relates to the Bellarine Statement of Planning policy. I told you this thing was having its day in the sun. And enhancing the policy's impact in local planning decision making. And I guess I'm curious as to know what that means in practice. What are the implications of this change in terms of decision making on planning applications?
Thank you, Councillor Torres, for your question. So, in a practical sense, what it means is on a merit-based process, the Bellarine Peninsula Statement of Planning policy must be considered in all planning applications. So, for instance, if I'm just looking at a planning application before me, it states in the delegates report, which the senior planner assesses, it says the Bellarine Peninsula Statement of Planning policy was approved in July 23. The BSPP has been incorporated into the Queenscliff Planning Scheme via the amendment VC 245 in 2026. The proposal is not considered inconsistent with the objectives of the BSPP. So in a practical sense, it means on a merit-based process, when an application is being considered, then VC 245 is a relevant planning control.
Does it give it more weight?
Yes, it does. That's the whole intent, is to give it more weight. That was. Yeah.
Councillor Rule?
I had a question through you, Mayor. Application PA 2023-062, which is at 105 to 107 Point Lonsdale Road and 1 Simpson Street, Point Lonsdale. I note that the CHMP has been provided and that amended plans have been received. I would require an explanation of the partial waiving of the car parking, which obviously occurred previous to the CHMP being provided and the amended plans being received. Can you give me details about why car parking would have been waived?
In relation to the waiver of the car parking, given it was a 2023 application, I'd have to get advice from the senior planner on that and come back to you, Councillor. But what I can update you with is that some amended plans have been received by the applicant recently. On the 20th of February, Council has asked for further information to make
Sorry, on the 20th of February?
20th of February,
Okay.
2026. An RFI has been sent to the applicant seeking more information to understand the plans. When those plans, when that information is provided, a briefing will be provided to councillors given the length of this planning application, and also given the changes and length of time of this planning application, it will be re-advertised to the community.
Oh, thank you very much. I look forward to that briefing. That'll be at our next briefing in March.
Hopefully, if we've got the information, Councillor Rule.
Thank you. Is
Thank
there
you.
any other questions? I have a recommendation that the planning permit activity report be received. I have a mover. Councillor Monahan. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rule. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you.
I don't understand whether we have to go one step further to incorporate the plan. We don't change the policy.
So the question was, sorry, it's for the people online, David. The question was regarding the Bellarine
It's open to.
I've got to find it.
It's a long,
Through the planning scheme amendment, the minister put it into our planning scheme and City of Greater Geelong, so it's there now. Yep, no more steps. We really can't take questions.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Item 12.2, future use of P1 huts at the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve. Before I call a mover, I'd invite the relevant officer.
Point of order, sorry, Mayor, sorry, I didn't get the actual, I think it was moved by Councillor Ward and seconded by Councillor Monahan.
Yes.
I didn't see
Yes,
the motion.
unanimous.
Thank
yes.
you. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Item 12.2, future use of P1 huts at Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve. And before I call the mover on this item, I would invite the CEO to briefly introduce the report and outline the key matters.
Thanks very much, Mayor, and through you, thanks for the opportunity to put this paper forward. Firstly, I'd just like to clarify so everyone's really clear about what you will be considering tonight, and that's the scope of an EOI. It isn't the EOI itself, so expression of interest. Obviously, my time is coming to an end here, and I want to see this project through, so the new Chief Executive Officer will take carriage of this project. What tonight is about is endorsing the scope of the EOI, so the components of it, what's important to Council, what we heard from the community through various consultation and various customer requests, to put out an expression of interest develop the scope of an expression of interest to open up what are the opportunities for the P1 huts into the future. It is focused on community groups, but it doesn't discount commercial, education, whatever anyone would like to do with it. I think Council was very keen after the significant investment through grants from state government to upgrade the huts, not necessarily for occupation, but to preserve them and they didn't deteriorate. We have seen that some in our community don't share that view with us, so they'd like to deteriorate them a bit quicker. So rather than taking action in repairing all the time, is there a future use for it? There may not be much that comes of this, but I think Council is very keen to hear from the community groups or others from outside of our community. Is there a use for them into the future? Again, all you're determining tonight is the scope of the EOI. What will come back next will be the detail, the project control group, how it'll all work, but it is outlined in the paper there for you tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Rule for a question?
No, not a question. I was going to move the recommendation.
I was just going to say, would anybody like to ask any sort of questions or anything? I'll ask a question then. It's just a reservation, so it's just purely just a scoping exercise of the expressions of interest, how it would be carried out. You know, it's just a fact-finding mission of like the parameters. Is that it?
Indeed, Mayor, so through you, the intent of it coming to Council was obviously to get Council endorsement on the scope, but also put it out so the community is aware of what Council is considering, and then at a future time, and it'll probably be in a month or two, obviously Jane will need to get her feet under the table, organise ourselves internally for the resources, and then probably come back to Council, particularly with a time frame on it. You'll note that there's an indicative time frame that I put together in the back of the document that needs to be refined, honed, and then any areas that we want to target particularly, obviously community groups, but are there education providers, as I said, other service providers, others who might have an interest in it, and I have no doubt that as part of the process there'll be an open for inspection type thing, although they're not easy to get into, so people can see what they're getting into. One of the underlying, or one of the overriding principles in this is that it's basically no cost to Council. So you'll see that throughout the document, but also how do we protect the heritage significance of the P1 huts, but provide community benefit.
So would this actually give a clearer indication or opportunity for the community to actually give some ideas on the actual uses, and then that will probably come back and say, well, it actually sort of stamps out any of that sort of saying, you know, with the restrictions, that would actually say, oh no, well, that's off the cards.
100%. So at the moment, nothing is out of scope except anything that goes against the heritage of it, makes significant modifications to the heritage fabric, or violates planning or environmental constraints, or cost council. They're the only things that are off. Anything else is open, and within the scope we have examples like community use, low impact other uses with heritage and environmental sensitivity, micro galleys, marine coastal education, health and wellness related activities. Accommodation and hospitality is in there. To be very frank with everyone, I don't think that's an option. But anyway, we don't want to restrict people's thinking, so they can come back with any ideas. Then we can go through a process to talk to them, show them what they're really like, and get some innovative thinking behind them that council will ultimately determine what it would like to do with them.
Did you? Thanks. Michael, I love this scope. I think this is, anyway, I'll put the question, then I can talk to it if need be. Forgive me. That site is significant. We have 2 projects, one almost complete and another underway, stage 1 and 2 of the Lighthouse Reserve. I'm thinking about the regulatory framework in which those projects have had to occur. It's quite complex. There are many intersecting stakeholders and approvals. Would that be the case for this scope? You mentioned that framework, but it has not been without its complications and delays. And I just wonder, I guess how that sits in this scope and the likely work we'll undertake, however many or few applications we get to the EOI process.
Thanks, Councillor Tolhurst, and through you, Mayor. Under point 3, Councillor Tolhurst, we've tried to articulate the key constraints and principles for people so they go in eyes wide open, and the subsequent to that will be the visit to the site themselves. But particularly, as you've said, heritage and planning compliance is stringent there, and we've got it there. The proponents will be responsible for securing approvals through whatever process it is, and that could be cultural heritage, DECA, etc. The environmental sensitivity of the area as well, same thing. Public safety and accessibility, no impact on BoQ resources. So, there are quite a few constraints on it. But I think, council's taken the view that we should at least let the community know that there is an opportunity. If someone can come up with something, we're really keen to hear from them. If it progresses, we'll work closely with them.
But can I also ask, is there an actual issue that's because there's no approved master plan over the area? Would that actually, by doing this, would inhibit sort of developing one?
I certainly wouldn't inhibit developing a master plan for the area, and most areas significant like the Lighthouse Reserve area would have a current and a contemporary master plan. We don't have one for there at this point in time. It would be something that would be in a future period talk to DECA about partnering with us and paying for it to have a master plan for their area that we're custodians of, but it doesn't inhibit it. What not having a master plan can do is have various disjointed developments going on. It's not happening there at the moment, but has the potential to do that. I don't think this project will, because we can stop this at any time that we like as well, and it's got to be something that fits in with all those constraints and principles.
Okay, do I have a mover?
I'd like to move the motion. My motion is that council endorse the presented proposed expression of interest scope for future use of the P1 huts at the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve.
All those in favour? I'll abstain, thank you.
Can we be clear?
Yep.
Can we be clear about who's voted?
Yeah,
Say
so
division?
we'll do. We'll just do a division on this. All those in favour? Councillor Rule, Councillor Monaghan, Councillor Cameron, and Councillor Tolhurst. I will abstain as I'd like further information. Item 13, the 13.1 quarterly financial report. Before calling on for a mover, I invite the relevant officer to briefly introduce the report and outline the key matters. Gihan is the Manager for Finance and ICT Services, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take the report as read, but I'll just provide a brief update about the key themes that you can take away from this Q2 report. So as we know, when Council adopted the financial plan in October 2025, the Council set a recurring underlying result target of 376,000 for the current financial year. So that in setting that target, we factored in efficiency gains of 262,000 into the current year budget. So excluding those efficiencies, the recurring underlying surplus would have been 114,000 for the current financial year. While the service review has not yet commenced, the Q2 forecast indicate that Council is trending toward achieving efficiency gains of 64,000 for the current financial year, which is mainly coming from some of the staffing restructuring initiatives that Council has already implemented. So if you exclude these remaining efficiencies, what the forecast project recurring underlying surplus of 178,000 for the current financial year. And given the timing of the service review or the efficiency reviews, which we will discuss in a separate agenda item, it is unlikely that the Council will be able to achieve the remaining efficiency target during the current financial year. So hence, this target will be reviewed when we finalize the Q3 financial report. So even if we exclude this remaining efficiency target, the Q2 report project accumulated cash surplus of 924,000 for the current financial year, as stated in the quarterly financial report. So I will not go into the details. I think we have explained for all the material variances compared to the previous quarter in the report. So in addition to the financial information, because we can be financially sustainable even not providing services, saving money. So there's another part in the report which provide an update against LGPRF performance indicators. So as stated in the report, so Council has achieved some significant improvement in several performance indicators in recent years, mainly driven by some targeted initiatives and process efficiencies that Council has undertaken.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Councillors? No? So we have a recommendation then that Council notes the quarterly financial reports and associated statutory statements as detailed in the agenda. Or would you like... Oh, I was saying, would everybody like me to read out all the statutory associated statements? No? I'm quite happy to. All right, not a problem. All right. Councillor Tolhurst would like to move the recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Monahan. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. 13.2, the annual plan implementation update. It's like CEO. Would you like to give us a brief report on this? Thanks.
Thanks so much, Mayor, and through you, councillors. You have a whole package before you tonight reporting on the second quarter. The financials, as Gihan has just gone through, the annual plan, and then next you'll consider the strategic projects report, which is a new initiative from the organisation to give further visibility into how we're tracking. The annual plan comes from the council plan, as you're aware, and there's 25 actions within our annual plan for this year that we're reporting on the Q2 milestones. I'll take the detail as read and happy to speak to any of them. You will see some that are at risk. They're at risk for a range of reasons. Some are, say, the bike park as an example. It's reliant on grant funding. If grant funding isn't forthcoming, then we'll need to look at other opportunities for funding. You'll see the service review, which we'll talk about later. It's only 15% complete, but there's a report coming tonight, and so on with the others. It's fairly detailed, but happy to answer any questions on it. I think overall we're tracking pretty well for the second quarter, and there's been a lot of progress. We're now into nearly the end of February, so of course you'll get the third quarter in April.
So thank you. Are there any questions? Yes?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. The Go Lightly Park amenity renewal, there is a risk there noted, and I might say firstly, thank you for the modified report, the presentation and inclusion of things like risks, issues and decisions, and the financial summary is extremely helpful in getting a snapshot of where things are at and why. But the question around Go Lightly Park amenity is about a risk being flagged that the cost may exceed what's budgeted, and I wondered if there's any idea as to what extent and when we'll know more.
Thanks, Councillor Tolhurst, and through you again, Mayor. So the shorter answer is we don't know, but we see the risks. Why we don't know is we've just got the detailed designs, plans and tender documents back this week, so it'll go out to the market in coming weeks. Certainly we would hope by the end of this month, so the next week or so. So the market will tell us. What will likely have to occur then is looking at the scope of it to come within budget or come back to council for increased budget to finish some of the stuff off. It'll really depend on how the market's going at the moment. I think there's a bit of work out there, so unfortunately when there's a lot of work out there, prices tend to go up a little bit, but we'll see how we go and hopefully with local contractors.
Councillor, any questions? Councillor Cameron? No. On hand. So I'd like to ask, regarding the Royal Park Northern Amenities block replacement, we had noted the stakeholder engagement will be undertaken in early 2026. Is there any rough indication, like we're already into the second month of the year? Can we sort of have an indication of when and how that's going to be done?
Thanks for the question, Mayor, and through you, I'll save Stuart from jumping up to say soon. We do have some challenges within the organisation of our resources just to prioritise this. It is on our priority list and we would expect in the next few weeks that we'll be able to go out. But we'll come back to you with an update. It is certainly on our table. We've got to allocate some resources for it.
Okay, thank you.
I'll come back as a volunteer.
Yeah, so I have a recommendation that the council notes that the quarterly report update against the annual plan 2025 to 2026 for the period of October 1 to 31st of December 2025. Do I have a mover? Councillor Rule. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tolhurst. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 13.3 Strategic Projects Report. Recommendation that the council receives the strategic project report and notes that it will be presented quarterly. Do I have a mover? Councillor Tolhurst. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Monaghan. All those in favour? We've carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. 13.4, the Intercouncil Glass Bin Advocacy Group. I'd like to bring in Stuart Hanson, the manager for infrastructure. Thank you. Can't read.
Thank you, Mayor Gregor. I'll take the report as read and just provide a short overview and a bit of context around the report. The Circular Economy Waste and Recycling Act places a legislative responsibility on council to provide a glass collection service by a prescribed date. The date hasn't been prescribed yet, but it's being widely publicised within the state government bureaucrats that it's anticipated to be 1 July 2027. Now, obviously, there's costs associated with the rollout and provision of a new service, and that's considered against environmental benefits, etc. The state government has mandated the glass service introduction prior to the introduction of the container deposit scheme. And this report provides detail around an inter-council advocacy group that's seeking an expansion to the CDS and a review of the effectiveness of the CDS and asking the state to share the business case supporting the glass service or the introduction of the glass service, and also requesting a delay to the glass service rollout, or the anticipated date that we need to roll it out by, while considering the alternative approaches to delivering or meeting a need. The recommendation of the report's on page 59 of tonight's agenda.
Do we have any questions? So, Councillor Monahan, Councillor Cameron, I have one for you. Just asking, so is there an overall benefit for the ratepayers if we introduce this scheme?
There's a cost, a very direct cost that will be collected effectively through the waste charge. In the initial year of rollout, that cost is estimated to be around $78 to $79 per waste charge, and that is larger than subsequent years due to the capital costs of bin purchase, etc. There's estimated to be the ongoing operational cost that will be added to the annual waste charge thereafter is estimated to be around $27 to $28. Now, I guess the underlying reason for the separate service is that there's a belief that the separation of glass out of the mixed recyclable bin, the yellow lid bin, will improve the recyclability of materials like cardboard. So that's the summary of the cost versus benefit, I guess.
And what would be the frequency of the pickup of this bin?
So we've modelled our cost based on 13 collections a year. So basically a monthly collection model. We're making our modelling based on a 120 litre bin, and the average household will fall well short of filling that bin every 4 weeks.
Okay, so do you have a question? Oh, no, and will we be making sort of any sort of allowances then for, this is going to be the fourth bin to be stored on people's property and things. Would council be making some sort of allowances then, if they're left in the street, or what are we going to do about sort of providing sort of storage or sort of allowances for people to, that have troubles even fitting the 3 current bins now?
So I can't speak to, I guess, the provision or the challenge of storage of bins on private property, but the local law has, I guess, a section in that relating to bin presentation and I guess it sets out a reasonable time for bins to be presented. Council has got the discretion to review any of those provisions under the local law. That's really the...
All right.
Yep. Oh, there's the waste policy also is another mechanism.
Thank you. Do I seek a mover?
I'd like to move the motion.
Well, the motion, the recommendation is that the council joins the Inter-Council Advocacy Group and calls on the Victorian Government to outline, as outlined in the report. So the move is Councillor Tolhurst, Councillor Rule as the seconder. All those in favour?
Sorry, can I speak?
Oh, speak. Oh.
Surprise, surprise. Thank you, Stuart, and to Meg, who's done an incredible amount of work in the background and does always in the realm of the borough's waste management. I fully support this motion and joining the advocacy group, which I see it is at its core about finding a better outcome for councils and communities in the management of glass waste. I think while well-intentioned, the state's ambition to roll out a 4th bin, like the data now shows that is, as Councillor Grigau's questions pointed out, it's more costly, likely less environmentally beneficial, and the rollout of the container deposit scheme provides opportunity for expansion and scaled glass recycling to the benefit of charities, to the benefit of individuals financially, and to be better considered as a whole before jumping metaphorically into another bin. I think, we're joining our neighbours, Geelong, who've also are in the advocacy group, and a range of other councils in this important work. As a council, we've made a commitment to doing more inter-council work and advocacy, and I look forward to seeing the outcomes of this commitment if the motion is adopted tonight.
Yes, Councillor Rule.
Thank you. I'd just like to add to what Councillor Tolhurst has said and point out we've got 3 bins now, red, yellow and green, and the state government's proposing the 4th bin, a purple one this time. And of course there's a name for this development, the Circular Economy Act. And in that act, this separates glass collection to be provided by a certain date. Well, that group's called the State Government Curbside Transition Team, and they've said this is to occur no later than the 1st of July 2027. But in November 2023, the Victorian Government introduced, some might say finally, a container deposit scheme, also known as CDS. I've always got an acronym. However, unlike other states, Victoria has not included wine and spirit bottles as eligible containers. Bit of an oversight. The cost to the borough, as Stuart's outlined, well, to the ratepayer to be precise, of implementing this policy has been estimated by our officers at $143,000 for the bins and their delivery, $22,000 for education about what to put in the purple bin, $96,000 annually and rising for collection and processing. Of concern is the fact that the current processing costs for mixed recyclables, that is what we already put in the yellow bin, despite there no longer being glass, those costs are going to increase. Those few Victorian councils that have introduced a glass recycling service report presentation rates, I think that means how much the bins are being used, of 15 to 30%, particularly following the introduction of the CDS. An ever-expanding group of more than 35 councils have opposed this rollout, and this group's been formed, and it's called the Interglass Bin Advocacy Group. And we're very fortunate in that this group has given us the opportunity not only to join them, but in recognition of our size, they've agreed to forego the membership fee of some $3,500. So, in my view, it's a no-brainer that we join this group and we try to stop this idiocy taking place.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak for and against? No? We'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? So it looks like it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Item 13.5, the proposed CP 060, councillors standing for election. We actually, no, it's all right. Well, I won't call for the presentation from the officers. Fine, thank you. Recommendation that council notes this report and determines whether to adopt the amended policy CP 06 as presented. I like to move this recommendation, and do I seek a seconder?
Which recommendation?
Oh, recommendation. I read it. That council notes that this report and determines whether and adopt the policy CP 060 as presented.
Sorry, Mayor, just for clarity for the minutes. So
yes.
If we go to the last page 73 of that, option 1, adopt the draft policy as presented to council as an attachment to this report.
Yes.
So that is a marked up version.
Correct.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So I'll move that. I have a seconder.
So was that number 1, Laurie?
Yes, just as the changed.
To get the discussion happening.
Yep. Thank you. I'd like to. I'll speak to the motion where this policy, it comes down to it's the expectations of the community, and it's going in the recent. In the recent pages in the Geelong Advertiser, there was a story regarding this. Geelong passed one last night. The Surf Coast has actually had a policy for a few years. Now, the community has come back and said, like 51% has actually said that they would like to see the councillor actually step down, or not step down, but just go on leave from the time they nominate. 32% have said that they would like the councillor to, as soon as they get endorsed, to be step down and take leave from council. 17% said no, because that would actually cause disruption to council's voting. I was saying that there's been an anomaly, and it's been lacking with the governance rules and from the state government to actually enforce a rule over the past few years. That, council, the public has gone out and demanded, as somebody has nominated, and also especially when they have been endorsed as a candidate to run in federal or state parliament, to actually step down, because there's the perceived conflict of interest that we have to go and fight to make sure that there's clarity, that people do not have a conflict of interest. It's very important. The general public, voting public, has, it's beneficial for the candidate to actually step down, because there'll be constant mudslinging from the public to say that, oh, you'll have a conflict. There's always in the background, there's this saying, and also, they're saying that, oh, are you doing the work of council, or are you doing the work of, promoting yourself, as a councillor for a higher office? It was only yesterday when, just before the vote in Geelong, the Deputy Mayor, Ron Nelson's, sorry, it was after, thought it was before, so I actually saw a report that, he stepped down because he has, said he will be nominating to stand for the Liberal Party in, in South Barwon. And also, there's another councillor in Geelong who's wanting to stand in the upper house. And it was quite notable last night that he wasn't there at the council meeting to vote on this issue. But it comes down to, it's just decency and clarity for the ratepayers, that when somebody actually stands for, wants to promote and stands for a higher office, they should step down from the role of councillor, so there's no ambiguity of how their use at time to be, while they're at council, is not being used to promote their own campaign. Thank you. Do you have it? No? I'll put that up to a vote. All those in favour?
I'd like to speak against the motion, and perhaps as part of that, in speaking against the motion, could I foreshadow an alternative motion if this motion's lost? I'm pleased that we've got clarified the distinction between prospective and nominated candidates. And I note that a prospective candidate could potentially be a prospective candidate for a year or more, or longer. So I fear that makes it very difficult for councils to operate if that prospective candidate is required or asked to seek leave of absence. Clearly, the nominated candidate is someone who's formally nominated with the relevant electoral commission. And there's a problem in that known political parties, Labor, Liberal, National, Green, they have a system of pre-selection. So therefore, it's fairly obvious when there is a prospective candidate, and once a candidate is pre-selected, there is still a period before they actually become a nominated candidate. Should this be another category, I wonder. But then what about other categories of prospective candidates, so-called independents? Those individuals could choose to keep their prospective candidacy secret up until the close of nomination for candidates for an election and remain on council. That is, only a few weeks before an election would they perhaps announce. Well, they'd have to once they're public. So they might well use the platform of council as a means to increase their knowledge of local issues and promote their name and their status as someone who works for their community, let alone possibly making use of all the council admin and facilities such as phones, computers, etc. So there's a problem. We've got independent candidates don't fall into the same category as those belonging to known parties, so the prospective candidate consideration makes it difficult. The timing of the suggested leave of absence period makes it difficult. We're talking about an election period, which is from when the candidate's registered, or a campaign period, which could be years, months, weeks leading up to an election date. Indeed, an independent could well be in campaign mode now. I'm concerned that a transparent, maybe honest, prospective candidate might be compromised for more than a year that I've said. And then what about the operation of the council? And what would we do here? Would we be limping along with only 4 councillors? Or what if we've got 3 people who decide to nominate for 3 different parties? Does the borough sit on hold until the state or federal election occurs? None of this is desirable. In the time where an individual continues to be both a prospective candidate, that is transparently acknowledged or not, I think it's important, as you've pointed out, Mayor, that there is a potential that they compromise themselves, because it's difficult to work under 2 masters. A clear separation of roles is paramount. And in the interests of transparency, I would hope that an individual would consider the conflicts of interest, both perceived and actual, the allegations that might arise of misuse of position, and accept the need for transparency to both your elected community, in this case the borough, or the community that you're asking to elect you to a higher office. And a note of caution, beware. Voters aren't stupid. They've got a high sense of perceived misuse of position, influence, or council resources. So I have questions. I'm uncertain about the validity of the motion, and that's why I'd like to speak against it at the moment, and foreshadow, if this motion is lost, that there would be, I would put up another motion.
I'll speak against that. The analogy that someone sort of that goes out for 12 months, or even it's 3, or 3 councils, especially for this council, would actually, the public would be it will take a very dim light, and there will be a pressure on them, to say that, to make the council work. The policy is there also to shine a light, to put pressure on those councillors that will actually want to go and seek high office, and do they weigh up saying, oh, do I go this out and then go and take the wrath of the voting public to say that, there's really I'm going to put the council at risk. It comes down to, they have to, as councillors, you have to think very hard. You want to stay as a councillor, then if somebody wants to step off and really go and seek high office, then resign, and then, as opposed to having the safe bet, then saying, oh yeah, if I don't get elected, then I've always got back my councillor role. Comes down to this policies, they're also there to help give the pressure in to ensure that where there's clarity and there's a clear function of where people stand, and it's enforce people to make a decision. Are you going to be a councillor, or you want to go and seek higher office? It's like, yes. Okay. Thank you. I'll put this to a vote. Those in favour? Those against? Yes, motion's defeated.
Can I put forward my alternative motion as foreshadowed? My alternative motion would be that the draft policy, as presented to Council, removing item 7, the attachment that we have, be adopted as a guideline rather than a policy for the Borough of Queenscliff. That's my motion, moving. And I would like to speak to it, and as I did say earlier, I'm concerned about some of the implications of this particular guideline now, but I would prefer it to be a guideline rather than a policy, because we have to emphasise that none of this is legally enforceable. So therefore, I find it silly to make it a policy. I think it should be a guideline. And we are appealing to the better nature of anyone who puts themselves up as a councillor, for election as a councillor. So the Local Government Act doesn't require councillors to take leave of absence, much less forego their allowance. But I believe that good governance standards of an individual would require a councillor who is a candidate to seek leave of absence to minimise the risk of real or perceived conflicts of interest between their council duties and campaign activities. I do think that it would be better too if any councillor who takes leave of absence, no matter what the reason, should elect, as the Local Government Act says, not to receive their allowance, particularly in our small cash-strapped borough. So I would emphasise that I would hope that both a leave of absence would be requested and electing not to receive the allowance, all of which is outlined in the draft policy presented, which I'm proposing be a guideline rather than a policy.
I'd like to speak against the motion. I believe that, why do a recommendation? It's like comes down to, it says toothless tiger, comes down to it's just a watered down, it's just a guideline. It's just, so you might as well not have it. Comes down to we're just going to follow the state guidelines. So just stick with what's legislated then, and really, but you have to push. Comes down to, there's public sentiment is what they want clarity and more harsher, to clarity with the people, and so we're here really to deliver the wishes of the majority of people's opinions. I think so. That's why I would say to have a weakened down to a guideline is pointless. So you might as well not have it. Thank you. Would you like to write a...
Oh, well, I just emphasise again that even if it's a policy, it doesn't have a leg to stand on because it is not legal. It is not in the Local Government Act 2020. Maybe if we can introduce changes to the Local Government Act 2020, then it wouldn't be a toothless tiger. But I don't think that's up to the Borough of Queenscliff councillors.
Yes.
Mayor, just for clarity for the minutes, can I just get clarity, Councillor Rule? You mentioned, with the exception of 7.
Item 7.
Item 7 in the draft policy?
Yes, which
is the compliance and breach?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just for clarity on that one. Thank you. And just for clarity as well, councillors, if this were adopted as a guideline tonight, it would form part of your governance rules. Yes. So to be a package of all of that, as City of Greater Geelong and others have done.
Those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. So those in favour, Councillor Rule, Councillor Tolhurst, Councillor Monaghan. Those against? Cameron. Yes. And those against? Councillor Grigau. So it's 13.6, Service Review Framework. Before calling for a mover, I invite the CEO just do a brief introduction to the report and outline the key matters.
Thanks, Mayor, and through you. Councillors and community, you'll be aware that as in the development of the council plan of last year, and also the budget, council was keen to have what was termed then an efficiency review within the organisation. You heard from our Manager of Finance and ICT Services some of the gains that have been made from the hard work of the organisation so far this financial year. What I'm proposing here is a service review framework. So rather than just the efficiency review, what's been identified through our Audit and Risk Committee is our service planning process. Also, we are due to refresh our workforce plan and also look at all of our services, the level of service and how they're meeting the community needs at the moment. As the report says, we're committed to delivering high quality services that meet community needs, but we only have limited resources to be able to do that. What this framework puts forward to the council is a holistic approach. We are seeking external quotations, not necessarily from consultants, but from people to come into our organisation and support our organisation through this to build the capacity within the organisation to do these service reviews and service planning ongoingly. What it will bring to you, and you've already identified some of these service deep dives that Council wants to have a look at and understand more thoroughly on the service and the cost of that service to the community, and what are the options that we can explore. I have couched it that it is again going to be the incoming CEO who will take carriage of this, but I think it is allocating that $40,000, and that's not necessarily saying that will be spent on this, but the $40,000 that was put into the budget to commence the efficiency review be put towards this service review framework, and I'm happy to answer any questions on the detail.
Any questions?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Michael. This looks great, and I know is another part of the internal audit review recommendation, so great to see this implemented and give really good visibility to councillors in their decision-making and of what the org is working on. My question is about capturing customer experience and expectation, and there is a principle of community value and equity, but can you provide a bit more information on how the community voice would be considered in the service review process and the plans that are forthcoming?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question, Councillor Tolhurst, and through you, Mayor. You'll see on the front page, particularly the 6 steps, because we included shared services in there as well. The first 3 are the key ones that we're going to undertake with the help of someone to support the organisation, to develop the service review framework, to develop a service catalogue. So that is actually identifying each of the individual services that we provide. You would think that we would have that by and large. We will provide somewhere between 75 and 100 different services. So waste has about 5 services within it. Library services is one. Community and aged care has about 4 services that we provide within it. So it is actually breaking it down to each of those individual services and developing a service catalogue. Then the final bit of that is a snapshot of where we are today, so the financial deep dive. So what staff are allocated to it, what's the level of service that we provide, who we're providing the service to, and then having a full picture that council then can consider what are the ones that we want to have a look at. When council determines which ones we want to have a look at, you've already identified 4 this financial year that we're in. I expect that we'll be, I think 10 over 2 years is a lot, but that's what we're aspiring for in this. When we then get to the comprehensive service review, that is when you go out to both the people we're providing the service to, in fact, if there are people we're providing it directly to, or we're providing it through a subcontractor or whatever. We'll also go out to the broader community on this is a service that we're providing, but also when you do that, we want to have all of the information, including options, because it's not always getting out of a service. There'll be 4 options for most services. We maintain the level of service that we're currently providing, we increase the level of service, we decrease the level of service, or we transition the service. And transitioning the service crudely is getting out of the service, but is there someone else better positioned to provide that service in the community than us? So we want to give the council all of that information to identify, say, the top 10 that we want to look at in the next couple of years, but then have all that information for the community to also understand that this service costs $185,000 and it services 40 people, for example. These are just random figures. Is the value proposition for the council and for the community? It may well be, but you have all that information to be able to do it. So at that 4th stage is when the community and those who receive the service or benefit from the service will have a say to inform council on their ultimate decision.
May I ask a follow-up question around, I guess, the whole basis of this, or the one of the lead pieces of information is about economic value and economic analysis. That's really at the forefront of helping councillors make decisions, that is then accompanied by other things like community input or, service level that we're interested based on the economic analysis. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, it is, and that's the facts and figures. So that's relative. Like it's a big piece of work, but it's relatively easy to do. The harder bit is to understand the community impact, the community sentiment of these types of things. So council recently made a decision on the hard waste service. That's a service that not a lot of people use, but clearly, as you heard from your community, it's valued in the community. So you chose to keep that going, and that's the right way to go around things. You've got all the information in front of you. You had the options to go to a different type of service, a different model. You had all the costings and you had the people that use it, and then you had the community who gave you very strong views about what they thought, and you made a decision on it. Exactly the same process we'll go through on these ones.
Can I ask, how transparent will these service sort of framework reports be? Will the general public have access to that? To be able to, will we be making it public?
So, as a matter of course, generally no. All of the services, so like the service catalogue, absolutely yes, and that would ultimately be on our website. So it gives people a really good understanding, because none of us generally have a good understanding of all the services councils provide. So where I've been in the last 20 years, it's somewhere between 75 and 150 different services we provide when you break it down to that individual level of service. So it's really important that the organisation, the council and the community understand where their rate dollar goes, because we hear it all the time, we get nothing for our rates. This will help explain the services that we provide. The next bit, so that's the catalogue, the service plan and the service review would only be made public if council wanted to go out and consult with the community about it to give them all the information. So there are some things that you will say, because how I would handle it if I was here, we'd come to the council and we'd say, are there non-negotiables within here? And you will tell us that, and from your community. And you might say right from the outset, we can't touch this, we can't touch that. There are services we have no flexibility on, they're mandated. So waste services, we've got to provide waste services, that's legislated. But if we're going out to the community asking them, my advice to the organisation and to you would to provide as much information as you possibly can, so not only those receiving the service and benefiting from the service, but the broader community understands what the impact is. Because there are many things that we get, many services, that we get a lot of recurrent funding for. There's always a gap that the ratepayer contributes to. But for instance, maternal and child health, we get funding from the government towards, I know we contract that out, but towards that service. School crossing supervisors, we get part funding towards that, but we take the vast majority. To understand that once upon a time state government provided 80-20, now it's the other way around, it's 20-80. I think it's important for the community to understand that if you make a decision about library services or school crossing supervisors or all that, that information is available to the public and in an appropriate form. So we wouldn't go down to staffing numbers and all that type of stuff, but they do need to know the impact of that service on the budget ultimately.
Okay. So we have a recommendation on this item 13.6 service review framework, that council endorses the service review framework. 1, 2, approve the governance model. 3, authorise the CO to resource the initiative. Sorry, I've got the wrong one. Sorry. That recommends, no, this one, sorry. The council endorses the service review framework as presented. 2, allocates $40,000 to implement the service review framework. Seeks proposal from consultants and or individuals to deliver its works. And 4, requests officers to represent milestones, outcomes of the reviews to future council meetings. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cameron. Do I second? Councillor Rule. All those in favour? That unanimous. Thank you. That ends that one. Thank you. Item 14, questions without notice. There's item 14.1, no questions without notice are outstanding. Item 14.2, I will call, any councillor have a question without notice? Yes, Councillor Tolhurst.
I do, thank you, Mayor. And the question is for you. Earlier in the meeting, you mentioned that the borough had been guaranteed a seat on the board of any governance structure for Ballara, and
No, I didn't say we were offered.
offered. Oh,
Yes.
do you have that in writing?
No, it's verbal that Tom, yeah.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
But, I'd seek to, honour his word on it. When it comes down to, he brought that down and that's part of it. He'll be and I'm ensure that, we will get. He's an honourable man. So,
Is that different from what it was before?
it's always been.
2024? I've never had a guarantee that was...
No, it wasn't guaranteed either. It wasn't a guarantee. But he made the offer, and I said, at that stage when he told me, so I didn't say, "Oh, we'll definitely take it up," and I'll just say that we would, if it allows it, saying we'll demand our seat at the table.
I think it would be fantastic if the borough did have a seat at such a table. I'd just love to see how that's been assured, and if it is an assurance, then it'd be great to have that in writing. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, item 15, list of council meetings. We've got a planning review meeting scheduled on the 11th of March 2026, if required. We've got our next ordinary meeting is the 25th of March 2026 at 6:30. Thank you. I'll move to a closed session of the meeting. I've got a recommendation that the accordance with section 66(1) and 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act of 2020, the meeting be closed to members of the public for consideration of the confidential items 16.1 and 16.2, which are the 16.1 is the Community Grant Members Committee, and 16.2 is the Finance Committee appointment of independent members. So, do I have a mover? Councillor Monahan, do I have a seconder? Councillor Rule. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the gallery. Enjoy your evening.
I've got another couple of weeks, but yeah, I'll see you around. Yeah. Thanks, David. Thank you.
I'll step out now.
Hey.
Oh, no, do you have to be here for the opening?
Just get advice when the live stream is.